Welcome back, modelers. So today I have a little bit of a special tip selection stuff. Bulletproof stopper. Hey, welcome back, modelers. So today I've got something that is a little bit special. This is possibly geared a little bit more towards some people that are new in the hobby, but just a few people that are looking to step up the game. So what I've got is, what are my game changers when it comes down to products? What are some of the tools that I have that have really stepped up my game? Where I've gone from something that was just more of a hobby to I need a dedicated tool for this. I need something to give a better result. Because remember, better tools give better results, right? So what are the different tools that I've found that, allow you to step up that game? Number one, we're going to get into cutters or nippers or sprue cutters, whatever you want to call them. But early on, when I first started, I would just rip stuff off of the sprue and, we'd call it good at that point. But eventually I would get into some kind of like wire cutter like this. And the thing with these is they don't exactly, this is going to shoot this really far. Yeah. There's all sorts of force that's going on with this when you're cutting this, and it just does not give you a clean cut. But enter the display, or however you want to pronounce it. So with this guy, much more of a smooth cut. Not necessarily perfect. There's a few things with it. Probably if you really want to step it up above this and go into a god hand, that's where it's at. But if you look at some of these cuts, let's cut out this wheel. I can cut very close to the object, and it's a nice, clean cut. So let's go with maybe one of these. And you can just see how, since it's sharp, there's not a whole lot of effort that needs to go through. And when you get to it, not a whole lot of cleanup that needs to happen when cutting those off. And when you have a big, like, Bandai Millennium Falcon Perfect grade, that goes a long way in saving you time and energy. You also get into less problems where it kind of rips the plastic and gives you kind of a bit of a cavity and whatnot. So that's going to be my first of here that I'm going to give you as my game changers. Next one, let's talk about, well, what do we do when we've got the piece and we need to clean it up? Well, in the past I'd use good old sandpaper, 400 grade, and, it can kind of do the job and all this. And you can get away with it. It works, but enter in some premium quality stuff. So these Infinity sticks, there's a couple of different types of these. These are more of the soft back. You can see it's more of a sponge. These are pretty phenomenal. And so what we can do, granted, I'd probably use a different grit. This is probably use a 400 grit for this. But these are amazing because they last a long time. I can wash this and it's pretty much like brand new. But we can go in and sand this. The way that they build these out, very, very uniform. So you don't get into some issues. You're less likely to have scrapes that are going on when you're sanding these. So this just is such a game changer. When I first was using them and was sanding some seams, it was just like, is this like a hot iron? It's like just melting the plastic away. It was so amazing. The other thing that is a pretty cool game changer is these glass files. So with this, I can put this on here, and these are basically going to last forever because I can go in and I can actually just wash this off and you can use it forever pretty much. So you can just see, boom, get all that plastic off there. And it polishes it pretty much down to being like super fine polished plastic. Which I don't know if I can even get it to focus and show you how clean that is. Let's try this part. There you go. So check out the shiny on there. So those are pretty dang cool for just clean up some of these nubs or some of these seams that we gotta clean up with on these Airfix wheels. You can do a bunch of things with that. And so that's gonna be my next game changer on the list. So the next one, you're probably gonna say to me, oh, brother, really? But there are people that are still using these, and you know, and it worked for them in the past, and it can still work. But tube glue, you know, just trying to find like a tester's set, but this is what I had close on hand somewhere. I'll have to see. I think I've got a couple testers somewhere around here where I'm just keeping them for nostalgia, or maybe I'll frame them and be like, this is where I started or something. But these for joints, it just doesn't do the job nearly where you get into Tamiya extra thin cement, especially when you get into this quick setting stuff. So with this, all you got to do is just put the two pieces together, and then you're gonna take this, of course it's dry, but you're gonna put it in between the joint. Wish I had a third hand at the moment, but I would put that in between the joint. There we go. My fingers are going to be the joint. So we're going to just put it in with that, and it'll melt that together, and you're not going to have any glops and gloops of glue with that. So this, by far, is one of the biggest game changers that I've had in modeling over the years. Now for my next one, hopefully this doesn't bring up a whole lot of contention with people, but just standard blue tape, you know, masking tape that you would use on your walls, but not necessarily for modeling. Moving into a washi tape specifically like this Tamiya tape right here, when we get into this, the thickness of this tape is a lot less. The actual adhesion glue to it, very, very different. So the properties that make up this give you a much better result when you're painting. You're not going to have as much of a lip to where the paint is. So, I mean, this has its place. You can use this. It's kind of like overspray and all things like that. But when you're painting your line, a good quality tape like this is key. All right, next. Yes, I am a victim of doing this, or I'm guilty. But when it came to whatever paint I was using, which was either, you know, testers or using Tamiya, you know, it's water soluble. It was acrylic, and so, you know, I just use a bottle of water or something kind of like this, and you know, and it can technically function, but the results, not the best. So the next game changer, by far, we get into a good thinner like this, Mr. Leveling Thinner. This stuff is gold, hence look at how much I've used it. It's almost empty on this particular bottle. Does an amazing job at just leveling that paint and making it a smooth mirror finish. So that is going to be my next game changer. All right, next is decal solutions. So my impression is at the beginning, and maybe there wasn't a whole lot of different types out there or something, but you know, somebody said, you know, Microsoft, good stuff. This is what you want to use. This has had a lot of use. It's why it's so nasty. And I'm not saying that this is a bad product or anything, but one thing that stepped up my game is realizing there's different solutions out there, and they have different properties, and for one reason, the personality of some decal likes one, and the other personality likes the other. So with a good amount, Microsoft works great. Let's see, I might have to step up and do Solvaset with a different one. Or I might get into, one that I've been working with a little bit more with a lot of the Tamiyas that I've been building is Mark Fit Strong. And so just finding a different one and taking some of the decals that come with it that I'm not using and just kind of test them out and see which one works the best for that particular personality of decal, I would say. And so I think that has been a big game changer when it comes to setting up decals. All right, next, hairy sticks. So when I first started, of course, I'd use just either some of the stuff that I stole from my mom, or like this overly used and grungy set that came off of testers, just whatever, maybe even came with a model set for all I know. But using these for everything that I paint versus going into, a serious person's paintbrush. And I'm not saying like this is the top of the line or the creme de la creme, but it is definitely a step up. And so I got this, it's Master's Touch. I'm trying to think what, it's a talcum. But we're getting into serious level, well, I don't want to say. If you really want to get into some Winsor & Newtons and things like that and be more than $20 a brush, so be it. But I think a $7 brush is about the most I want to spend on a brush. And so that's where we get into something like this. And having a brush for each and every purpose. So I've got a detail brush. I've got one that I use for stippling. Well, a couple that I use for stippling. I've got some that I'm used specifically just for streak effects. And so just having a lot of these rather than just one tool in your toolbox. You should have a bunch of different brushes to just outline that whole entire setup. And so going from here. Now, last and certainly not least is going in and starting airbrushing. So minimizing using the paintbrush, the hairy stick, as much as possible. And getting into was one of the first of the more dedicated, real brand kind, you could say, is this Neo Iowata. And using something like this for a lot of the airbrushing, complete game changer. When we get into airbrushing versus going in and hand painting everything. Can you make a model look really good with a brush? Absolutely. But you can make it easily look very, very well. Very, very good with a good airbrush. And so I've got a couple. I don't really use my Neo much anymore unless I am needing some backup or whatever. But most of what I'm using is Badgers right now. I've got Patriot Extreme. I've got a Sotar. I've got just a standard Patriot 105. Like the Patriots, because then I can just switch around the parts and just have a part supply if something goes wrong and interchange them. So getting into those has been a big game changer. If I look back to some of the models that I built where I was hand brushing everything, and then I transitioned to some just my early on airbrushing builds, totally night and day difference. So hopefully you thought that was informative. Hopefully you've been inspired to be able to, get some proper tools, whatnot with your setups. By all means, this isn't like an exhaustive list by any means of the imagination. There's other stuff that I want to put on there at a certain point and talk about, like the silhouette cutter, and just getting away from decals has been a big game changer. Other things like where I'm getting my information has been a big game changer. But how do you put that in a video like this? I was thinking of maybe showing a basic old magazine and be like, I went from this to tank art and getting my information from there about tanks or wherever, better publications at that point, right? So there's plenty of those. If there's something that has been a big game changer for you, if there's a product that you just totally better than anything else you've ever used, put that in the chat. Maybe it'll lead to a product review, or maybe it's something that I need to buy and put on my shelf, right? So definitely make sure that you comment on that. And as always, like and subscribe. But until next time, it should be likely next video is going to be Nationals. So we'll be bringing you some videos from Nationals that'll have all the different vendors and just my total experience. So there's going to be a ton of videos from that. I'm going to document basically the whole journey, as this will be my first Nationals. Show you all the different things I'm entering, all sorts of fun with that. We also have coming up I've got the new Tamiya F4 that has been brought to me by our new sponsor, and so we'll be building that, and so that'll be a couple video series showing you my build with that, along with Kinta Studios has given us some advanced copy of the cockpit that they have for it. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on those videos.